Good evening, Chicago, and welcome to another Friday night edition of Chicago Corner. Thank you for joining us tonight. We've got a lot to report on. Sadly, as we're seeing, it's been another bloody week in Chicago. I really hope that things don't go too out of control over the weekend. We'll cover some of what's happened with our news coverage tonight. I want to welcome to the program my co-host, Mr. Kip.
Cheers and salutations, folks.
And Mr. Ed Heller.
Good evening.
How you guys doing tonight?
Well, I'm actually really excited because next week is going to be a vacation for me. And then number two, we're all going to be seeing Jimmy Dore here in Chicago. And maybe something might be awesome happening at the studio over the weekend. Again, I can't talk too much about it. But if you don't got it, get it. And if you don't get it, go figure it out on the nights.
I've got my fingers crossed on that. We'll see what happens.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a small miracle last night when I just double-checked the Jimmy Dore website to see if there were any tickets that opened up for the 8 p.m. show, and it looks like I may have gotten the last one.
You're with us on Friday, Ed.
Yeah, so I'm with you guys on Friday. And if anyone's still looking to see Dore, I believe he still has 10 p.m. Show tickets available at the Chicago Zanies show. I didn't check to see if anyone wants to run out to the suburbs, but he's also playing the night before in Rosemont at Zanies.
Yes. So, unfortunately, hey, look, I'm gonna go to the Chicago show. Simple as that.
Yeah,
both locations are delightful.
We had a good time last time we saw him at Talia Hall, which you would imagine would have the good sense, given how he filled that barn not once but twice. They had to add extra shows, filling the pockets of their wait staff with good tip money and providing a lot of clientele for their restaurant. You'd think Talia Hall might have been wiser rebooking him, but we're just glad he's back to Chicago because he is a Chicago treasure. And I know that Jimmy loves touring, and we're looking forward to seeing him perform live. So I'm glad we all got tickets for that Friday show. Which reminds me, next Friday's show, we will not be here because we'll be at Jimmy Dore, and I will make sure that Kira repeats this next Tuesday. But we will be running an interview that Kit did with Jamal Green for Can TV. Now, this interview was conducted before Jamal announced his campaign for mayor. But once Can TV broadcasts the episode this week, we will then be able to put it into Chicago Corner rotation. So you will see that 27-minute interview next Friday night. We won't be live, but it's a great interview. Anytime Jamal joins us, the team here, it's fascinating conversation. I'm really, really glad Kit was able to cover that while I was sick from COVID. And it's going to be a nice treat for our viewing audience to see and share and listen to some of the thoughts that Jamal had before he announced for mayor.
Also, Extra Bullet says, slackers, hey, we deserve a vacation here and there, okay? That's how it is.
When it comes to Jimmy Dore, Warren, we don't need an excuse.
Yeah, you goddamn Skippy.
Looking in the live chat, Kathy has COVID again. Yikes. Now, I think that this is the second time. Yeah, please take care, Kathy. I caught it once 2 months ago, and once it cleared my system. Actually, now I'm due for my booster, now that I think about it. That's a good reminder, because after I survived it, my doctor said you might want to think about getting a booster in another month or two, and we're on a second month. So it's still out there, everybody. I know that my immunity's grown since I got jabbed, as well as managed to fight it off a couple months ago, but still, I don't want to get sick again, and I'm sure a lot of you don't want to either. I'm not going to sit here and advocate and preach, if you should get vaccinated or not. Obviously, you have. If you believe in that, you haven't if you don't. But I don't know. I just don't think it's anything to continue messing with. So please act accordingly and safely. Speaking of safety, oh boy, let's go on our first story, guys. We had a breaking news story last night. And then another breaking news story today regarding shootings here in Chicago. The first story is related to a downtown shooting that left 2 men dead. And then what developed during the day today was CPD officers being ambushed answering a domestic call. So let's get into WGN's coverage from the first story, and then I'll also share some of what came from Block Club Chicago.
This morning, 5 people were shot near a firehouse in the South Loop overnight. 2 of them were killed.
Judy Wang is live in the 400 block of South Wells with what we've learned. Judy?
Good morning. That firehouse is right next door to this parking garage, which police have been searching for several hours now. We counted about 18 evidence markers so far for shell casings found in the garage. Chicago police say as of now it appears that an argument, led up to the shooting. 2 men were killed. They were pronounced at Stroger Hospital.
Stay out of the line of fire and don't worry about taking that run until he, stops shooting and get police on scene.
The shooting happened again near that fire station. Firefighters were told to stay inside at South Wells Street and Ida B. Wells Drive. This happened at 1:45 this morning. Police say 5 men were leaving a business we believe to be a nightclub called Persona. They got into an argument with someone, and that person pulled out a gun and started firing. A 29-year-old man who was shot in the head was killed. The other man killed a 26-year-old man. He had been shot in the chest. The 3 other men shot were taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where they are reported to be in good condition this morning. Police again found several shell casings in the garage and also on the curb outside the garage entrance. They were also examining a blue Jaguar. This is all happening as CPD is gearing up for what is expected to be a busy July 4th weekend.
It seems to be a mass shooting as we await the 4th of July.
Busy or bloody?
Weekend, which is normally the most violent weekend of the year, and
I'm glad that he qualified it for us.
hoping this is not a sign of what is to come, but it definitely seems like it at this point.
Chicago police have no suspects in custody in connection with the shooting that happened this morning. We're going to hear more about the police department's plans for this holiday weekend from the police superintendent and Mayor Lori Lightfoot later this morning. In the Loop, Judy Wang, WGN News.
Now, that report from the mayor and from Superintendent Brown didn't come because they had to cover a press conference for another incident that happened. And I'm going to bring that report up today. So I think that we didn't get comments on how we're going to. Here we go.
Officers are valiant every single day, and we need to make sure that we remember that and that we thank them.
Now here at 4 o'clock, a Chicago police officer hospitalized after he was ambushed and shot while responding to a domestic violence call this morning. We begin there this Friday afternoon. I'm Lourdes Duarte.
And I'm Ben Bradley. Gaynor Hall has been following this shooting all day long. She joins us live from Stroger Hospital with the latest.
Lourdes and Ben, the injured officer has 15 years on the force. He was shot multiple times in the torso and the arm. And the police superintendent says video from the scene shows the officers were ambushed.
Officer down, any available units on zone 3. Units on the citywide, we getting a 10-1, 1342 West Taylor. We got an officer down.
12th District officers were responding to a domestic disturbance call just after 8:30 this morning in the
Now, one thing I wanted to remark about that before we return to the video, I know that they announced last year that they were going to start dispatching social workers, a social worker faction to go out with officers to answer domestic situations, and it doesn't appear that happened here. I guess just the police answered it. Which, I mean, on one hand, okay, good. If this was really an ambush, not good. What I mean to say is that I'm glad that no social workers were caught in the crossfire of an ambush. It's really regrettable and very tragic that these police officers were shot if this was a planned ambush. Or I'm wondering if it wasn't a planned ambush, if some idiot in the hallway just saw the cops arriving and decided to start shooting. They go more into the report about the suspect, or I'm sorry, I don't even know if he's a suspect anymore. I do believe they know he's the shooter because they picked him up afterwards. But I just started wondering about what's going on with that program about dispatching social workers to domestic situations. But let me let the report finish. I'm sorry I jumped the gun. No pun intended.
1300 block of West Taylor Street.
As officers arrived, they got on the elevator, went upstairs, and as soon as they got off the elevator to go to the apartment, they were fired upon by the offender.
A police source says this image shows the man running from the building. Police say he had cuts to his wrist. He was taken into custody and they recovered the gun. Superintendent Brown says officers did not fire their weapons and he says no one else was injured.
Sometimes while I walk my dog for a long time, sometimes my partner and I will have to stop and say, was that gunshots or fireworks? And this time it was gunshots.
So I got to also jump in on this. Every time I hear pops in the night, and I usually work late, I'm an overnighter here at my apartment, I ask myself the same thing. Did those pops go off in succession, or were they erratic, trying to determine if they're fireworks or gunshots? And normally I will call 911, and I'll jump onto my Citizen app and see that other people have reported it also, because you just can't tell the difference, nor can you know the difference anymore, given the escalation of gun violence here in the city.
As someone who's served, and been at a few, firing ranges for about 4 years, you can't tell the difference. I mean, occasionally, if fireworks or larger ordnance, maybe that might sound like a gunshot. I mean, there is a distinct sound, but let's actually focus on what's happening here in the city. Violence is getting out of hand, and this mayor is allowing it to continue to run amok, all the while continue on with ineffective domestic policies that just don't work in the city anymore.
I would also say, Kit, I think when I hear the erratic pops, those are fireworks. When you hear a pop, 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 that's somebody discharging a weapon, and that's normally like, I'm hitting 911. But that this lady says this in the story, she's like, nobody can distinguish if they're hearing gunshots or fireworks anymore because it's just so commonplace every night.
Then saw the officer being brought out on a gurney and all that. And he was, he seemed to be, cognizant of what was going on.
A UIC officer also responding rushed the wounded officer to Stroger in a squad car. Outside the hospital, the mayor talked about the risks officers face, highlighting a recent surge in domestic violence-related incidents.
We have to remember that officers every single day are risking their lives for our safety, and today underscores that.
It was a very lucky morning, that's all we can say. But we have to stop relying on luck. The officer's in a lot of pain. He's going to need your thoughts and prayers, and we'll be there to support him going forward.
The suspect was treated at Mount Sinai Hospital. There was also a second man taken into custody at the scene, though his connection to this is unclear at this point. Superintendent Brown says the wounded officer has been alert and responsive, and they are hoping and praying he'll make a full recovery. Reporting live outside Stroger Hospital, Gaynor Hall, WGN News.
So it'll be interesting to find out as more news is released if the guy who shot the cops was involved in the domestic violence call that was put in, and what happened with that domestic violence call. All the while, this story ends up disappearing regarding the shooting downtown, because and look, I'm not saying that attention shouldn't focus on the police officers that have been shot. I mean, anybody that's brazen and stupid enough to decide they're going to go try to shoot cops is a danger to everybody, not just the police department. But, there hasn't been a follow-up, and I don't think, an initial overnight story in regards to the downtown shooting where, one man was shot in the head and another man was shot in the chest. There were the two fatalities from that shooting. Now, as far as the downtown shooting, there's nobody in custody, and the investigation's ongoing. Pavel Thomas, who has lived near where the shooting occurred for 5 years, said he heard the shooting from his apartment early Friday morning, but didn't immediately realize what he heard were gunshots. I thought they were perhaps fireworks. Two stories, the police shooting and now the shooting downtown. Everybody doesn't know if they're fireworks or gunshots. There was a bunch of shots. It's hard to say an exact count, maybe in the neighborhood of like 12 or 20. Tomas said you could kind of hear screams and cries outside the window. And then approximately the next 10 seconds, a second volley of shooting went off. Another resident who didn't want to use his name told Block Club he saw the aftermath unfold from his high-rise. He said he also mistook the rounds of gunfire for fireworks until he saw emergency response vehicles flood the scene. Friday's mass shooting is the second incident of this nature to happen in the area, according to an email sent out to residents at 235 West Van Buren Street around the corner from the shooting. 4 people were shot and wounded May 3rd after 2 men opened fire at an SUV stopped at a red light in the 400th block of South Wells. Being as close to our building as it is and sharing the East Alley with the businesses on the street, it is important to stay safe and vigilant at all times, the email said. I don't think I've ever felt more unsafe than I have this morning after hearing of the events unfolding. 2 times in the last 2 months is really alarming, and I hope it doesn't become the new normal, Tomas said. This is reported by Melanie Mercado and Kelly Bauer of Block Club Chicago. Now, we normally hear about shootings in the city and automatically equate them, oh, that's just happening on the south and west sides. That's not going to affect me. Nope. Downtown, Lincoln Park, it's moving north, everybody. And as Ilhanner shares in the chat, I'll repeat his comment. This is an easy problem to solve. Invest in social programs and end homelessness, but we live in America, so no soup for you. I would also say, and I've been screaming it on Hardlands Media with Kit, we need to start regulating ammunition, because ammunition is not an afforded right under the Second Amendment. Period. You want to collect your guns, run around with your guns, show them off, put them on your wall, be big men, tough guys. But you know what? You don't have a right to ammunition. And if they regulated that, I don't know, guys, is that too logical? Kit, I mean, you know more about weapons and armaments being a veteran. Is my proposal crazy? Because I actually talked about this with that documentary filmmaker who's been working on this project regarding gun violence in Chicago and gangs. And as I started to say regulating ammunition, she's like, I've been talking about the same thing with people in the community at St. Sabina and in advocacy and activist groups. Why aren't more of our representatives focusing on, if you can't change things because of the Second Amendment, shift the argument, shift the quote-unquote target on regulating ammunition?
I would say this. The gun lobby group in the NRA has a lot of influence. But if we want to fight for a better future, we need to start making sure that we, one, make sure we have proper background checks. But number 2, if we're talking about ammunition regulation, we need to make it happen. But it cannot be done through any connection, through any political party here in the United States. We cannot, under any circumstance, bring in Washington, D.C. Look at how the Democrats right now, with their majority before they lose it in the midterms, are allowing Roe v. Wade to pass away. Like how they're ignoring the fact that Americans are being evicted from their homes and apartments. The violence that we're seeing out in the streets is the reaction towards our ineffectiveness from our politicians in Washington, D.C., and the inaction from our politicians in the city council. Yes, there's a handful of good lawmakers in the city council. I'll give it that. Maybe a handful. I'm being generous by saying handful. I'm not meaning a lot, but maybe 6. And that's as far as I'm willing to go. But in regards to this, if we're really going to talk about helping out Chicagoans, we need to start investing into social programs and also investing into after-school programs and creating jobs programs to get people off the streets, maybe reinvesting into the city. Chicago is not broke. There's a book, again, Chicago is not broke. It's about the TIF funds. If you haven't read it by Tom Tresher, please do so. It is a book that will enlighten you on the fact that this city has resources, but our politicians don't give a damn about the people. There are politicians so greedy using the TIF funds. Case in point, our Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who is right now trying to run for re-election. And I dread the fact that if she were to get re-elected, it's going to cause more problems for the city. She will not solve them.
Ed, thoughts?
Yeah, it's a little hard to follow that, but yes, aside from the close-up of Lori Lightfoot being part of my thoughts forever now, one thought is that the gun lobby will make any effort they can. Yes, Chicago is Not Broke by Tom Tresser is a great book. You can go to Tresser, TRESSER.com, and I believe there's a link to buy his book Continuing my thought about ammunition. the gun lobby is going to make every effort to make the right to keep and bear arms inclusive of ammunition, because they'll say that, well, that's part of arms.
Not part of a weapon, though. It's a separate
Well,
item. I understand what you're saying, but
it depends on how they define arms.
Well, if some clever lawyers decided to like figure out, look, lawyers will twist specifics into pretzels to get the result that they want. So I do think it relies on like some really keen legal minds that, as kids said, maybe aren't politicians, but actually acting on behalf of victim advocacy groups to propose this and try to see where it can go.
Yeah, but the rest of my thoughts on that are basically things that Kit just said. If we improve the lives of the people in the city, so that they don't become desperate and stupid, then they do less desperate and stupid things. Do you think that that other story was called an ambush? Do you think that people would start ambushing the cops if they approved of their previous actions in other situations? Do you think if the police were in a situation to help people more than they oppress people, that they would be called to an ambush?
You're absolutely right. I mean, look, with all sympathy to the police officers that answered that call, yeah, it is a response to the fact that people feel oppressed by the police. And until more details come out regarding whether or not these people who quote unquote ambushed the police were involved in that domestic violence call or not, I guess, we can further analyze, if that was an ambush or if it was a response to, I don't know, this guy being involved in a domestic violence situation and feeling like he was going to get set up for something. Who knows? I mean, we can't condone this as a response to oppressive police policies.
No, of course not. But
I know you're not saying that, but yeah, it's definitely. So in regards to the domestic violence calls, Lightfoot also said the city needs to tackle rising domestic violence calls. We've got to make sure we're addressing this surge, she said. There have been this unbelievable increase in domestic violence-related homicides and shootings. It's a huge public health, public safety issue. Yeah, it is, and that's related to mental health. So why are you spending more money on police overtime and arming the police like a paramilitary force than reopening mental health clinics and offering more health services and other investment in these communities as we talk ourselves blue in the face every week, sharing? Domestic-related homicides are up 23.5% compared to this time last year, the mayor said. Yeah. Speaking of Mayor Lightfoot, have you guys seen this?
Clarence Thomas concurrence. He said, "Thank you, fuck Clarence Thomas." He thinks that we are going to stand idly by when they take our rights. If you read,
that was an off-the-cuff thing. Clearly, someone else must have yelled it at her, because that's what it sounds like. She's responding with it.
Well, whether it was or not, Ed,
she shouldn't have said it.
Not very mayoral. And when you're running campaign commercials, talking about how people don't take people are criticizing your approach, the fact that you're very aggressive, the fact that you're very abrasive. She's quite tone deaf.
Yeah. Regardless of the sentiment being correct, she's a mayor.
Well, no, look, I don't disagree with her regarding Clarence Thomas. I just don't think that it really does her case much good, especially not now that she's, making every effort she can to fundraise off of the Roe v. Wade decision. And I'm sure you guys have gotten the emails in your email boxes. I get text messages from Lori Lightfoot fundraising off of this now. I found an interesting article from Pink News in regards to her outburst. Let me read the article, then we'll go to her response, because the local civic leaders were also very critical about how she decided to blow up at that public event. Lori Lightfoot's impassioned remarks came during Chicago's North Side Pride March on Sunday, June 26. She spoke after Thomas wrote a concurring opinion stating that, as well as overturning Roe v. Wade, The Supreme Court should reconsider cases that granted the right to same-sex marriage, same-sex relationships, and contraception. I kind of don't want to go there, but I think that she's more worried about her same-sex marriage situation. But that's just my speculation. The opinion has no legal standing, but is a worrying indication of the direction the court could now take. A video of the Chicago Northside Pride March shows a member of the crowd shouting, "Fuck Clarence Thomas," while Lightfoot is on stage discussing the Supreme Court's actions. Lightfoot agrees, repeating the curse. The crowd can be heard cheering in support, as we just watched in the video. Although her words were well received by those in attendance and on social media, where the clip has gone viral, Lightfoot swiftly received backlash from her regular critics. According to Fox 32 Chicago, several of Lightfoot's mayoral challengers expressed their shock and outrage. One went as far as to suggest Lightfoot was inciting mob action, echoing allegations made against the mayor in May after she called a leaked draft of the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade ruling a call to arms. Interesting. Chicago City Council's Alderman Raymond Lopez, one of Lightfoot's harshest critics who once traded swear words with her during a conference call, suggested Lightfoot's choice of words were undignified. And I think at its most acceptable, I think that's what we can say. This is undignified. This is not how to present yourself as leader of the city. Despite the backlash, Lori Lightfoot has continued to speak out against the Supreme Court. Talking to CBS News on Monday, Lightfoot said she's authorized $500,000 to support reproductive health care providers in Chicago ahead of an expected influx of women from out of state. Abortion is protected by Illinois law, but she said there is much more to be done. We will be ready, and we will remain a beacon of justice for all, and we will make sure women who need reproductive care are able to get it in the city of Chicago, she said. The mayor isn't alone in her upset at the U.S. Supreme Court ruling. Vice President Kamala Harris has also spoken out and said she fears same-sex marriage will be targeted next. In a CNN interview, Harris said that she was shocked when she heard the news. It's one thing when you know something is going to happen, and it's another thing when it actually happens, she said. Now, I don't know if you saw the rest of that Kamala Harris interview, but she was fumbling as bad as Donald Trump would fumble in an interview when asked what will the Democrats do. I don't have that video queued up. I was just reminded of it as I was talking about this particular interview. But Harris added the court actually took a constitutional right that has been recognized for half a century and took it from the women of America. That's shocking when you think about it in terms of what that means, in terms of democratic principles, in terms of the ideals on which they were founded about liberty, about freedom. What's even more shocking, Kit, as you've been talking about in Hardlands Media, is how we know the Democrats could have codified it since Carter.
Well, okay, since Carter, but also let's look at Bill Clinton's presidential administration, and then let's finally look at Barack Obama's administration as well, especially his first 2 years. Let's be very clear. I think a lot of people tend to forget how annoyed and frustrated they were with Bush's administration, George Bush Jr. to be more specific. And the Democrats managed to get a supermajority in the United States Senate and in the United States House, plus also control the presidency. Barack Obama had a clear control over the Supreme Court as well. And the thing is, the Democrats could have done a lot of things. They could have, in theory, made things a lot better for working class citizens. But see, the Democrats don't do that. They're not going to make things easier for the working class. They want to continue this world of fear. And this is something that Democrats teach their colleagues at the state level and at the city level. Don't give the people what they want. Make the people afraid of what they're going to lose, even though you say you're going to help them. Give them the environment of fear. And now the Democrats are profiting off of Roe v. Wade and so much more that's happening here in our current political environment. The Democrats could have done this. They chose not to because they saw profit, and they also see the American people as gullible sheep. And Lightfoot views the people of Chicago as gullible sheep as well. She's only following orders from the Democratic establishment, all in her point to make sure that she remains control over this city. That's why she cannot get reelected. She is a serious problem and somebody who is not really an effective leader. And if she were to be reelected, her pettiness is going to destroy this city. I dare say it, a second term of Lightfoot will be a death blow to the city of Chicago.
Kit, did you catch the Breaking Points report this morning with Crystalline Sager and David Sirota regarding the fact that Democratic voters have pretty much had enough? And it's speaking to everything you just said, specifically what Sirota shared, which I thought was absolutely dead on.
Well, can I add something here with David Sirota? Hey, David Sirota, welcome to the party. You're a little bit late to it, but I guess your friend Jimmy Dore was right, one of Chicago's very own. Look, we here in Chicago have been ruled under a Democratic majority for a very long time. But I want to remind everyone, especially those that maybe watch Fox News or maybe might be, programmed to think the Fox News propaganda. Look, just because the Democrats are in control of Chicago doesn't mean this is a socialist communist utopia. No, it's not. It's corporatist. You don't even have to be a Democrat or to be a part of the city government. You can file in as an independent, then become a Democrat. You could be a straight out corporatist, blue dog Democrat, or dare I say even Republican. All you have to do is just put the Democrat name in front of you, and no one's going to ask you a goddamn thing because this is how the machine works. Corporatism runs this city. Not communism, not socialism, not progressivism, nothing. It's corporatism. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Corporatism is running Chicago. We have corrupt politicians. Chicago is number 2 in being the most corrupt city in America. Exclude Washington, D.C., then we're number 1. But what's in Washington, D.C.? Both Democratic and Republican lawmakers. So at the end of the day, yeah, hey, everyone is finally realizing the Democratic Party is corrupt. Welcome to the party. We've been saying this for so long, and all of us have been wrongly vilified as people saying, oh, well, we're pro-Republican. I'm not voting Republican. I'm not voting Democrat. I'm voting independent.
Well, look, despite the fact Sirota is late to the party, he made some very, I think, dead-on points regarding what you just said and what the Democrats' plan is. Democrats' approach ever since George McGovern lost in keeping their voters obedient, on leashes, constantly voting for them because they constantly what's the word? They will constantly, give me a second, usher their voters into thinking that they don't have a choice, they have to vote for Democrats, keeping them in line. He referenced some Rahm Emanuel, former Rahm Emanuel, when he said fuck the progressives when he was serving in Congress. Democrats figure that their voters are in line, unlike Republicans who actually make their representatives, make the GOP fearful. The point of Sirota's argument was, before I got derailed trying to put this all together, was that Republican politicians fear their voters because they know that their voters will vote them out. Democrats don't, because they've struck the fear of what happened with George McGovern from the 1970s into them, that if you decide you're going to take another course and don't vote for us, you're always going to get a Republican that's going to win. I would encourage people to go check out that Breaking Point segment after the show. I just thought the whole interview and how he broke it down, and the fact that it's finally coming to bite Democrats in the ass as far as voters not putting up with it anymore. They're not buying this bullshit that of incremental change, the bullshit of incremental change. Keep voting for us. We're going to keep fundraising and all this stuff, but you have to vote for us, but it's going to take time. When they see how Republicans hold their politicians' feet to the fire to get stuff done, like the repeal of Roe v. Wade.
When we look at the Republican Party, they follow through. The Democrats have convinced a lot of scared people, weak people, spineless people that, you got to vote for us so we can protect you from the bad GOP. But how many times has the Democratic Party sold out their constituents, their people, to the GOP and to corporate Wall Street and to the big banks and everyone else? So look, if you want to be a keyboard warrior and type on your little computer or tweet at me at Twitter, fine, go ahead. But AOC won't fight for you. Bernie Sanders won't fight for you. None of the members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus won't fight for you. Lori Lightfoot won't fight for you. All these politicians, they don't like you. They don't think about you. They don't respect you. And if you want to vilify me, Jerry, or Edward, or anyone else here on our show that, we're so mean to the Democrats, tell me,
Good morning, everybody.
Explain to us in detail why we should respect these lawmakers. If you're a diehard Democratic voter, explain to me what have they done so far to make things easier for working class people. And don't give me that BS about being pragmatic, because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of, oh, they got to play the game. Where are the people that are supposed to shake the foundations of the world? Where are these politicians at? Because I noticed one thing. When the Republican lawmakers fight for their corporate owners or anything else that they want to fight for, they get things done. Democrats don't. So go ahead. If you're a diehard Democrat voter, explain to me in detail what's the purpose of voting for the Democratic Party. Go ahead. Give me your pragmatic reasons. Be polite about it, but go ahead. Explain to me why any of us three or any of my viewing audience should vote Democrat. Go ahead. I'll be waiting.
I'm going to jump into that video to share that portion that Crystal talked about. This was sort of, I'm hoping I'm jumping forward to the right point. So give me a moment to hopefully be queued up in the right area.
70% that has a lot of cracks emerging in.
Third, who want the opposite from the far.
We're live about this week as well. Do you see some cracks emerging in that storyline that has been fed to the overwhelming majority of the Democratic base?
Yes, and I think this is a silver lining that's good. I think that what we're finally starting to see is the mainstreaming of the anger at the Democratic Party, not from the far right, but from the Democratic base. And I happen to think that's a really good thing. There was an NBC poll that showed, for instance, 2/3 of Democratic primary voters want their lawmakers to try to push for big change, even if it risks not passing, as opposed to 1/3 who
Jack off, cuck.
That is a suggestion that suggests that the nonsense of we have to go small in order to do things or in order to not antagonize the Republicans, that the Democratic base, large swaths of the Democratic base no longer believes that. There was another poll that showed a plurality of voters do not believe the idea anymore that the president can't do anything in the situation that the current president, Joe Biden, is in. There is another stat that Joe Biden only has a 25% approval rating among people 18 to 34. So a complete collapse of support for the Democratic president among young people who are truly sick of it all. I think all of that is a good thing for this reason. Because if you look back at history, everything basically that you love that the Democratic Party that it has produced in history, Social Security, Medicare, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, I can go through the list. That didn't come because people were just mindlessly cheering on Democratic politicians. That came because people forced Democratic leaders kicking and screaming to finally electorally, to finally respond because those Democratic politicians felt electorally threatened. They felt existentially threatened in their jobs. And so I think if this is the turning point, if the Roe case, the overturning of Roe, is the catalyst for the mainstreaming of a realization that the only way the Democratic Party is going to produce is if voters, normie Democratic voters, get more engaged and make actual demands, then that turning point, as horrible as that overturning of Roe is, that's the silver lining there.
Now, it shouldn't have come to that, right? It shouldn't have come to that. But I do think he makes some good points, and I think that the rest of that segment went into more detail in regards to really analyzing how Democrats have pretty much put their voters on leashes for all these years, and now that this happens, everybody's eyes are open.
Okay, so
it feels sorry. It just feels like it feels like we're like Sirota's doing the Monday morning quarterback thing.
Yeah,
because we've been talking about this for months.
Dude, I'm not sitting here propping him up, but I'm saying it's good that the mainstream viewers are finally seeing and listening to this. Yeah, and if you start to come out Monday morning quarterback it, if that's going to help advance things and get people to wake up because they're not paying attention to smaller shows or other networks that have been screaming this from the rooftops for what, the past decade, so be it.
Jerry, I've said in the past that shows like a Crystal and Sagar's show are kind of like a bridge to getting to the real media like us.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you have to have shows like that as a transition so that people realize that, wait a minute, mainstream media has been full of crap for decades and we've just been eating it up. And there's just this one show that isn't quite outside of that bubble, but they're enough to make some people start to actually question some things and reevaluate the way that they perceive the politics and all of the other garbage going on in this world. So unfortunately, without shows like that, you never get to TYT, which never gets you to Jimmy Dore, which doesn't get you to Hardlands Media. So while I don't like to watch that show anymore, I appreciate the content is finally starting to shift in a direction to where they're starting to open their eyes. They're not completely open yet, but they're getting there.
But it's that incremental change they're talking about. Eyes are starting to go, right?
Yeah,
it's a good point. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, they're the incremental news show, I guess you call them.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
No, I'm sorry. They're not anything. You know what it is? They're finally realizing that the game is up. They're not realizing anything. They know that they have nothing to stand on. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Kyle. Hey, Sagar. Hey, David Sagar, whatever you say his name. Hey, David Sirota, you four are never going to know what it's like to starve. You four are never going to know what it's like to lose your business. You four are never going to know what it's like when everything is taken away from you. And now they have the audacity to say, oh, voters are waking up. These are the same jagoff peoples that have been telling us to vote blue no matter who. Vote for the lesser of two evils. When you vote for the lesser of two evils, you still get evil. And we've been dealing with this in Chicago for decades. Dare I say it, maybe even since the founding of this city. Since the founding, and let's look at the bigger picture, the founding of the Republic, corruption has been running amok. It was never the city on the hill. It was never this land chosen by God or anything else. This was a land that's been run by corrupt individuals, and the city has been dealing with it. And everything that we're seeing being spouted out now by everyone now realizing that Democrats are spineless, nutless wonders, well then no shit. Chicago's very own Jimmy Dore was right. Hey, Crystal, you gonna invite Jimmy Dore back on? Hey, David Sirota, you gonna apologize to Jimmy after you and Fat Tony, Jake Uger and Sammy Boy Cedar were all saying, oh no, we gotta vote in Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House. I guess Jimmy Dore was right about that. I guess Jimmy Dore was right calling about Bernie Sanders, how much of a cuck he was towards supporting Biden. Look, at the end of the day, they can say things I want to hear, but I know what they've done. They're going to carry water for the Democratic Party. So until I see maybe Jimmy Dore on breaking points and they say, hey, Jimmy, turns out you were right, I don't want to hear a goddamn thing from David Sirota or Crystal. They can say their eyes are waking up, but the viewing audience sees it because the viewing audience is starving in the streets. The viewing audience is seeing people they know that are being hurt. So I don't care if they're going to say, oh, Democrats are screwing up. We've been saying it. Jerry, you've been saying it. Edward, you've been saying it. A lot of people have been saying it. We owe nothing to these politicians. And I also want to shout out to a super chat we saw from Zolo Hobo.
I was going to deal with that. I haven't put it up yet. We're talking about something else right now.
Go ahead.
Did you guys put it up?
I think
I had it up for a second. We can bring it back up.
No, I don't want it, guys. Let me run the board here. Okay, we're talking about one thing. I was going to address that. We're not done with the Lightfoot story yet.
But again, what I want to add with Lightfoot is Lightfoot could say things we want to hear, but she won't do jack. These Democrats won't do jack. So to hell with the Democratic Party and to hell with anyone that's saying, oh, now we realize we've been saying this for years. Welcome to the party. If you got something to contribute, give us an apology first. Then I'll hear what you want to say.
Well, while I'm not a huge fan of Sirota, I'm glad that he's echoing and putting out in the mainstream the stuff we've been talking about. As far as Lightfoot's response to her critics, here was
doubling down on her vulgar remark about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas after the High Court's ruling on abortion. At a news conference yesterday, she told reporters she has no regrets.
Clarence Thomas has proven himself over and over again, and particularly with that concurring opinion, that he is somebody who doesn't care or respect for the rights of anyone except for himself. And frankly, given what he and his wife have done in fomenting the insurrection of January 6th, he's shameful.
Mayor Lightfoot added that she would like to see Justice Thomas step down.
All right, so from that pinknews.co.uk, for now, both Lightfoot and Harris continue to fight for equality, with Harris concluding, I definitely think this isn't over. You think so? That was reported by Emma Flint from Pink News. So now, going back to the super chats, we did have a super chat. I don't know if it came up or not because I was monitoring something else here, but I will repeat it here, and I want to address it. Zola Hobo shares, and thank you for the super chat, by the way. If a Chicago cop wanted to come on your show and talk about what's going on in the city, would you be open to that? Absolutely. With the caveat, I hope, Zola Hobo, if you are in law enforcement, you listen to our coverage and are aware of the fact we are not here to criticize CPD. We're just trying to hold them to the higher standard that we hope and think they should be conducting their jobs by. So yes, if you are a Chicago cop, or if you know of a Chicago cop that can come on the show, hopefully speak in an interview format like this where they can either come on with a webcam, or if they need to hide their identity. I mean, I hope that's not the case if you want to speak freely, if you're allowed to speak freely. But email me, jerry@chicagocorner.tv. And that's Jerry with a J. There is a Chicago Police Department officer that I, not regularly, but often chat with regarding a lot of stuff that happens inside CPD, which I'm surprised most of the time he agrees with me with the stories we're talking about with the corruption and the higher standards that we hope that CPD would follow. I do think in this last story we covered earlier that it was good that the police showed restraint, that there were not other shots fired, despite the fact that there's an officer in the hospital now, which we all regret. But again, in responding to your super chat, yeah, I'd love you to come on, or if there's someone you know that wants to come on, please contact me through email, and we will make that happen.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing. You know, we want to hear all perspectives on the show.
Check with Gonzara first.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. Kathy Powers brings that up too, because let's face it. We're not. Here's the thing: Chicago Corner, just like Heartland's Media, we're not friends of the establishment. We're going to be critical of everyone and everything. So if you want to come onto a show, run it by your bosses first. But the door is open. We have yet to have a Republican on either Chicago Corner or Heartland's Media. Greens, Libertarians, Socialists, and yes, even Democrats. But no Republican yet.
JR shares in the chat, one of the things I disagree with the media is that you think your federal law enforcement agencies are above the corruption and that you believe in the propaganda and movies that they are the good guys. They are about propaganda and looking for more money in their budget. There was one other super chat comment I believe I saw. All right, Kathy, I guess it was the dollar dancing monkey, dancing leprechaun super chat. Here you go.
Oh.
I made a deal with Kathy every time that she gives us a super chat. There you go, Kathy.
I'm the leprechaun. There you go.
We'll run that one later. All right, so another update story I wanted to do. Man, this guy is pretty incredible. Joseph Cromelis, the walking man, is doing better. He's now in fair condition after suffering burns over 70% of his body. The condition of local legend Joseph Walking Man Cromelis has been steadily improving after someone lit him on fire in May. This comes from Mac Liederman at Block Club Chicago. He's now in fair condition over a month after someone set him on fire, hospital personnel said Friday. It was once feared Joseph Cromelis, a 75-year-old man known for walking downtown, would die from burns on more than 50% of his body. I thought it was reported it was 70 earlier, but I was wrong. After the attack, but his condition went from critical to serious last week, and he now has been upgraded to Ferris Georgia Hospital spokesperson said. The attack happened May 25th. A man whom prosecutors have identified as 27-year-old Joseph Guardia doused Cromelis with gasoline from a McDonald's cup and lit him on fire. Cromulus burned alive for 3 minutes while Guardia fled, prosecutors said. Guardia did not know Cromulus. A nearby security guard extinguished the fire and helped Cromulus get to the hospital. Guardia admitted to setting Cromulus on fire and is being held without bail on charges of attempted murder and arson. He said he thought he was lighting a pile of blankets despite Cromulus's face and legs being visible. Surveillance cameras captured the attack. So we wish the best to Mr. Cromulus. I've said this before on updates regarding his condition. It's going to be a long road back from that kind of injury, but he's got a will to live, which is extraordinary. And we're just glad to see that he's managed to survive that horrible attack that was committed on him. All right, going to our next story. Oh, go ahead, Kit. Sorry.
No, I'm glad he's recovering. That's what's important.
It's incredible. All right, going to our next story. Tax relief in Chicago for groceries and gas was put into effect today, because this story was reported. They said it kicks in Friday in Illinois, and the story was reported July 1st, which is Friday. So I'm assuming that kicked in today from how I read the article, but let me go into the details. Tax relief on groceries and gas kick in Friday in Illinois. The state's relief measures, including tax holidays and rebates, come as many Illinoisans struggle with soaring expenses for gas, food, and other essentials. This comes from Kaylee Potter at Block Club Chicago. The changes are a part of the Illinois Family Relief Plan that's expected to save taxpayers $18 billion during a financially difficult time, Governor J.B. Pritzker said in a statement.
Jerry,
Illinois,
$1.8 billion.
I'm sorry, $1.8 billion during a financially difficult time. Illinois' 1% tax on groceries won't return until next year. Gas taxes will remain, but they won't increase for the next 6 months, according to the news release. These tax cuts are expected to save consumers $470 million, state officials said. The state also plans to send more than $685 million in income tax rebate checks to residents and $520 million in property tax credits to homeowners, according to a news release. People who make less than $200,000 a year or married couples making less than $400,000 can expect $50 per adult and $100 each for the first 3 dependents claimed on their 2021 taxes. Homeowners whose gross income is lower than $250,000 individually or $500,000 for a joint filing will receive rebates for 5% of the property taxes they paid in 2021 and can expect checks up to $300. Speaking of checks, this is kind of like a detour. I haven't gotten my check from the Facebook settlement yet. And you know why? Because when I was banking with Chase 3 years ago and set up for instant deposit, even though I closed my Chase account 2 years ago, that $300 is being held by Chase. And I think I'm supposed to wait for it another month until, even though they've had it in their coffers for like the past 2 months, they haven't returned it to the claims administrator, the settlement administrator, to send me a check. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one. Just kind of reminding myself, I'm pissed off about
Chase is probably using that money to short sell AMC.
Right?
Yeah, probably.
And the interest off of the many, probably thousands or millions of others who got out of their banking years ago and they're sitting on their money. Anyway, going back to the story regarding the relief checks through the state of Illinois, the checks will be distributed automatically based on residents' 2021 tax filings. Comptroller Susan Mendoza plans to cut the checks the week of September 7th and expects distribution will take about 8 weeks, according to the news release. The tax relief plan also includes a back-to-school tax holiday August 5th to the 14th, when clothing and school supplies will be taxed at 1.25% instead of 6.25%, according to the news release. That 1.2%, there shouldn't even be a tax on clothing and school supplies. Can I say that?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. There shouldn't be a tax on groceries. We need to eat. Food is a necessity. Why in the fuck are we taxed on groceries, food, clothing, or in this case, school supplies?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was about to say we should. I mean, other states don't tax groceries. We should not be taxing groceries at all, ever. And the nickel and diming that this state does on sales tax for all sorts of things is absolutely ridiculous. Let's get the dang progressive taxation enabled in this state already. Stop letting people drag their feet on this because a handful of billionaires doesn't want it.
Well, it allows our elected representatives to fly in like heroes now and act like they're doing us a big favor. Why in the heck do we have sex bots now? There we go. Block the users.
It's because we're popular, Jerry.
Well, I blocked him, put him on a timeout. So let's see how long that keeps him out of here.
Oh, Miguel, quick with the trigger finger there.
Thank you, Miguel. So they can fund wars.
Thank you, Miguel H, but don't forget, you still owe your homework assignment.
JR shares so they can fund wars, military, industrial complex, corrupt fat agencies. Yeah. Pretty much it. Ilhan shares, how do those crumbs taste? And yeah, Miguel, everything we just, you probably, I didn't see your comment. You may have actually said that before Ed and I chimed in on it, but what is the government going to allow you to do? Stay in your home. How nice of them. Kit, any thoughts on that before we move on to the next story?
I think pretty much you guys covered everything that needed to be said. I'm just still upset at that David Sirota guy. Just, again.
Look, I know you're upset about it, but look, at least the conversation is now shifting towards more attention. I'm not a huge fan of his, and I understand your outrage regarding him, but I mean, it's like, let's look a little bit of a gift horse in the mouth that at least it's pushed, or it's incrementally pushed that attention and conversation forward.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I know. It's like everybody's too late to the party. It's like we've been saying this stuff forever, and now
this could have been.
We start saying, "Oh, God, well, you guys are right."
I mean, it would be nice to see that because let's face it, AOC and Bernie aren't going to fight for us. Lightfoot doesn't give a damn. I just would like to see like an apology from all these people who are carrying water for the Democratic Party and then smearing a lot of other independent media channels by saying that, oh, we're being wrong, we're not being pragmatic. It's just, we were right, and this all could have been stopped. This all could have been avoided. But, like TYT, Majority Report, they all want access. They all want to be currying favors with the progressives in the Democratic Party, and they're nowhere to be seen.
So as I go into our next story, if you're still watching Zola Hobo, who shared this earlier, if a Chicago cop wanted to come on your show and talk about what's going on in the city, would you be open to that? And we said, yes, we are.
Yeah.
If you're still watching, can you please share some of your thoughts and feelings in regards to the next story I'm going to share? Because I would like to hear what your explanation or what your thoughts are on why this particular incident happened. This comes to us from Block Club Chicago. Pascal Sabino reporting, young West Siders launched a safe zone to stop area violence. Hours later, one says he was punched by a cop. Now, I'm not reporting this, Zola Hobo, to knock cops. I'm reporting this because I would hold CPD to a higher standard in regards to what their responses are, as opposed to what seems to be, in this case, escalation. Tay Dudley was swarmed by police, punched and cuffed without explanation, he said. He was never charged with the crime. Now police in the mayor's office are investigating the incident. On the same day, Tay Dudley and his friends launched a violence prevention program in his neighborhood. He was assaulted. The group of young people organized a safe zone in a troubled part of Austin, an event where families could enjoy their summer in peace. But hours later, a Chicago police officer charged with safeguarding the neighborhood attacked 20-year-old Dudley, bringing violence into the safe zones youth worked so hard to build, he said. The June 23rd kickoff of the anti-violence initiative, known as the Austin Safety Action Plan, began as a smashing success, organizers said. But hours after it ended, Dudley was swarmed by police, punched and cuffed without explanation. He said he was never charged with the crime, police confirmed. He was given no warnings or orders before police battered him, Dudley said. The incident is now being investigated by the Chicago police and the mayor's office. I'm just trying to figure out, what did we possibly do that was a threat? They didn't tell me what we did wrong, Dudley said. The summer launch event at Austin Town Hall Park, 5610 West Lake Street, had food and music for neighbors to enjoy. There was also a basketball tournament and games like Jenga, bingo, and spades aimed at building connections between young people and older people in the neighborhood, Dudley said. Now, let me also interject here, Zola Hobo. I know you weren't there, and you probably don't know the police officers involved in this incident. But this is what we're looking at that doesn't really paint a great picture as far as how we would like to see law enforcement behave. I'm very curious to see what the results of this investigation are going to share, given the fact that this guy is still wondering what the fuck happened. Why did this happen to me? At a neighborhood safety event. Everybody needs somebody at the end of the day. As a community, we can help each other. If we can trust the people around us, we're rooting for them, we can get a sense of unity and empower each other, Dudley said. Organizers were excited about the large turnout and positive feedback from the launch event, so they stuck around at the park after it ended with their friends and family, Dudley said. Around 10 p.m., well, maybe I'm seeing, is this a curfew-related incident? And if it is, why do you have to assault and cuff him and not tell him why you're battering him? And now I'm speculating, but I'm looking at the time right now related to the way that things transpired. Around 10 p.m., officers approached the group and told the group to disperse, even though the park didn't close for another hour, said Darian German, another anti-violence organizer. The Austin Safety Action, I got ahead of the story. The Austin Safety Action Plan group partners with the Austin Police District, and most cops in the area know the people who are in the park, German said. When they first approached us, we thought they were just saying what's up on some cool stuff, but they were telling us we couldn't be there. It was the first time we'd ever heard that. This was our get-together spot where we all grew up at, German said. The group got ready to leave, and Dudley peeled off from the group, going in another direction. He said a few minutes later, the officers returned with several additional squad cars and rushed at Dudley, punched him, and put him in cuffs, he said. Escalation is what this is. They had an hour left to clear the park. What did they do? They decided to go get backup, come, beat up Dudley, and arrest him. Why? What did he do?
Because Jerry, they circumvented his alleged authority.
That's right. Thank you. That's exactly what happened. And who is this in the chat? Where is it? I'm going back now. Zola Hobo. Why do Chicago police constantly need to double down on the thought that their authority is being questioned? I would think if I were a cop, right, in a situation like that, and okay, I'm not, although I always thought it would be kind of cool to go into law enforcement to help people, I would approach a situation like that and be like, these kids are here. I'm representing the city as CPD. I'm going to engage these kids on a one-to-one level, not look at them as, how dare they tell me that they've got another hour to be in this park when they do have another hour to be in this park. Why? Why does it always have to be, we got to boss you around and you're supposed to unquestionably obey us? They never said anything. They just bounced out of the car, pointed at me. One of them got their gun out. They hit me in the jaw and put their arms around me. Here's who we're talking about here. All right? Dudley feels the group may have been labeled as gang-related activity because of our skin color, he said. When others in the community heard the commotion and saw officers rough up Dudley and shove other people, they tried to de-escalate by explaining the group's safety work, German said. And look, we've got video. Let's run the video.
Hey, look at this shit, man. Go on, Bruce. Boy. Hey, call me fool, gang. Call me fool. Call me fool. Call me fool. Call me fool. Call me fool.
It's like the fucking, I don't know what he's saying, but it's like the fucking Gestapo showing up. And Kathy, yeah, this is on Block Club. I mean, look at the escalate. Why? It's like they came back, arrested him, riled up the rest of the people around there so that they could basically cause more problems and arrest people.
Calm is cool. Hey, Lil Wayne, be cool, boy. Calm is cool on Bruce.
Calm is cool, you might be saying?
Cool.
Or call somebody. It sounds like he's saying call somebody.
Calm is cool.
Read the shirt, though. Read the shirt. 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 Read the shirt.
He's saying read the shirt because I believe it has his organization printed on it.
All right, so Zola Hobo, thank you for rejoining us. Zola Hobo says, usually something like that will start with a call coming in about a complaint or if there was a permit issue. I was a cop in Atlanta and becoming a cop in Chicago. A lot of cops have been trained to be fearful. Well, that's part of the problem. Okay, I do think that that is part of the problem. Why are cops trained to be fearful? Why aren't police trained to figure out how to, like, approach a situation and talk to people, not down to them or at them, to connect? I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to law enforcement, but I think that from my perception of what I hear and what you've just shared, that's I think we've talked about this before here on the show also. Reforms in police training, not to train cops to look at everybody on the street as the enemy. Yeah, I mean, that might sound a little bit too idealistic, but I don't think so. I think when you train a police force to go into every situation fearfully, Independent Voter Party says calm is cool. Is that maybe that's what they were saying in the video? So, you know, I take your point and I thank you for the super chat. And again, I still invite you to come on because these are the things I want to talk about. So if you were a cop in Atlanta and you are becoming a cop in Chicago and you're telling us a lot of cops have been trained to be fearful, how do you feel about that? Why do you want to become a cop, Zola Hobo? That's my question to you. I would hope it's to serve and to connect and to integrate with the community, not to continue to add to this perception that people need to fear the police, because that's not what police work should be about. We've talked about this on the show many times also, and this is in the Chicago Corner Manifesto that Ed is so diligently keeping, trying to get the city to pass ordinances that police officers should live in the neighborhoods that they police. They live in the neighborhoods that they police. They're not looking at the people in those neighborhoods as the enemy. They're looking at them as their neighbors. And there might be more bridging of the gap and more common ground found if you have to live in that community. And hopefully you can start forming a relationship with the neighbors where you're looking at each other to support each other, not as an occupational force. I don't know. Is that too, like, utopian? Perps equal enemies, Ilhanner says. Now, okay, so nope, never. A scared cop is a danger to all. And yeah, and I don't say that with any disrespect to law enforcement, because you're going to have itchy trigger fingers and escalate things as we just saw in this video. Now, if a complaint was reported that escalated that video that we just saw, that hasn't come out in any of the reporting. I mean, as it turns out, nobody gave him a reason that they arrested him. They didn't say, hey, we had a complaint come in. We need to shut this down. They just all arrived in force. In the video, after Dudley was cuffed, organizers yell at the cops, read his shirt. Dudley's shirt was the same one other Austin Safety Action Plan violence prevention organizers were wearing. It said, protect our hood. Officers eventually uncuffed and released Dudley before leaving with no explanation as to why the violent confrontation happened. So this wasn't somebody called in a complaint. This wasn't that these organizers were doing anything wrong when they had an hour before they were supposed to disperse. Chicago police declined to say why officers approached Dudley and would not identify which officers were involved in the assault. Of course not. But leadership is aware of the incident and has opened an investigation, and Sergeant Rocco Aliato, a spokesman, said, Sergeant Rocco Aliato, spokesman for the department. German said the incident shocked the group. I was really shocked at this because it had never really happened to us. We were trying to help police. Creating the Austin Safety Action Plan was us trying to better our city, and that's helping the officers. How are we supposed to work together if they're doing things like that, harassing us, he said. We're not doing nothing but chilling in our community. These kinds of incidents shatter the trust between the residents and the police, German said. If it can happen to us, it can happen to anyone, German said. We're supposed to be trusting them with our lives. We're supposed to feel comfortable around them. The young people behind the Austin Safety Action Plan were recently commended by Mayor Lori Lightfoot for their leadership in creating community-led solutions to stop the violence. We need to make sure we're listening to our young people. Our young people are doing amazing things all over the city every day, Lightfoot said, and the one time her broken clock was right twice a day at a recent press conference, where German was invited to speak about the Austin Safety Action Plan. Young people should not be assumed to be troublemakers, and many are at the forefront of fixing the problems in their communities, the mayor said at the press conference. We don't want to paint every single young person in our city with the same broad brush because it's not fair, Lightfoot said. I agree with her on that. The mayor's office is working with police and community members to learn more about how the confrontation unfolded, spokesman Cesar Rodriguez said in a statement. They also went on to say the Austin Safety Action Plan is a valued partner who shares our commitment to creating safe spaces and reducing violence in the Austin neighborhood. Everyone from the government to community organizations to city residents has a role to play in violence prevention. Now, the youth organizers are working to hold the officers accountable while ensuring their public safety project does not get derailed by the confrontation, which is a very, very legitimate concern. Now, Zola Hobo returns to the chat. Thank you. A large issue is that with the dangers in policing, it is supposed to keep people safe. Problem is when you have people that already perceive a danger from these individuals, use of force is increased. Yeah, clearly. And I think that's part of the problem that we're kind of pointing to. You guys want to chime in?
I think it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Is that like you get the assumption from police that a group of individuals is going to be trouble, and so they pull out their Officer Cartman, as Kathy says, and do their respect my authority, and then they expect that everybody to just go, oh, well, okay, yes, officer, we'll do what you say, regardless of whether they're in the right. And then what happens is you create this air of distrust of the police. And then it just, like I said, it becomes a vicious, endless cycle. Because then what happens is even when they try to create something like the Austin Safety Action Plan, you're still getting resistance from the officers who actually should be supporting the plan.
Yeah, and working with those youth in the community. Now, Zola Hobo shares, to gain compliance, there's a use of force contingency that is followed. It puts everyone in danger. I became a cop because when you have representation, it will help protect those that look like me. Well, I commend you for that. And I think that's a very, very good reason to become a cop, to try to keep things peaceful and protect those that look like you. I'm assuming you might be a person of color. Kudos to you. That I have utmost respect for that. But I do think when we're talking about how police officers are trained, as Ed just said, it becomes a vicious cycle. The Austin Safety Action Plan was designed to reclaim areas that struggled with violence by filling them with positive events and community building programs based out of neighborhood hubs like the Austin Town Hall Park, the library, and local schools. The project was initially started in 2021, and it was successful, reducing violence in the safety zones, organizers said. There's a lot of things we want to make a change with, like grocery stores and mental health, Dudley said. We want to be able to be safe so everybody can come out and have fun and be themselves. Can't say it any better than that.
Agreed. Look, there is a circle of violence that's happening here in this city that's been happening even long before I was born. And in order for us to break out of it, we have to break away from the norms that have been governing over in our city for so long. And the thing is, we have a media and a political elite that are so used to things being the way they are. We have no one currently in office that has the imagination to cross the threshold to do something different. And Chicago being a hyper-segregated city, we can't treat everything as though it's a nail. And the establishment, and right now the police, they have a hammer in their hand, everything's a nail. The political ruling elite over this city, everything's a nail, and they have a hammer in the hand. We got to break away from that.
Yep, agreed. All right, gentlemen, moving on to our next story. We've reported on bike lanes in the past, and incidents where motorists have ignored the bike lanes and unfortunately injured or killed bicyclists. By the same token, we've also discussed the fact that so many of our streets are already too narrow that the implementation of bike lanes all across the city is just adding to the congestion. And it doesn't seem that bicycle advocates, while wanting to have more protections, are also interested in being licensed or following the rules of the road that everyone else is. So Ed Mulaney shared this with me in Slack. Chicago's protected bike lanes will get concrete barriers by the end of 2023. It's a significant victory for bicycle advocates who have long said Chicago's bike lanes need better protections to prevent injuries and deaths. Kelly Bauer and Izzy Strubant report from Block Club Chicago. The city will upgrade all protected bike lanes so they have concrete barriers by the end of 2023. That's going to cost a lot of money. I thought we don't have money to reopen the mental health clinics or do other things.
It's magic, Jerry.
Isn't it? They're adding more bike lanes. Okay, so they have concrete barriers by the end of 2023, and it's adding more bike lanes overall, officials announced Wednesday. The city will add concrete barriers to 15 miles of bike lanes by the end of 2022 and make the same upgrades to another 13 miles by the end of 2023, said Erica Schroeder, spokesperson for the Chicago Department of Transportation. Those 28 miles of bike lanes currently have bollard or delineators separating them from the roadway, Schroeder said. The city will also add another 10 miles of new protected bike lanes this year, totaling 45 miles of bike lanes throughout the city with either a concrete barrier, bollard, or delineator, Schroeder said. And there's a map of what we're looking at with bike lanes. Continuing on, the announcement is a significant victory for bicycle advocates who have long said Chicago's bike lanes need better protections. It comes amid a brutal year that has seen drivers kill multiple bicyclists as they rode in bike lanes, among them a 3-year-old who was killed earlier this month as she was on her mom's bike. Now, let's clarify what that situation was. That was ComEd parking in a bike lane to do maintenance. I don't know that they put up cones. The woman was trying to navigate on her bicycle around a truck, and because things were so narrow on that very narrow street is why that tragedy happened. And we were talking about the fact that cones should have been up. Perhaps they should implement surveys or decisions on when bicyclists should be allowed to ride on sidewalks, if and when bicycle lanes are blocked, as an alternative to keep people safe. Because clearly they can put up as many delineators and concrete blocks all over the city, but you're still going to come into judgment call situations where it's going to be congested, and a bicyclist should be afforded the opportunity on a bicycle, which doesn't have the ability to kill a pedestrian, to maybe use a sidewalk. But that was part of our previous conversation. Using concrete curbs will be the standard for new protected bike lanes in Chicago, according to CDOT. The change will provide significant safety and comfort improvements for all road users, according to the agency. The upgrades will kick off this week, and the city adding precast concrete curbs along Kinsey Street, according to CDOT. Bike lanes that will get concrete barriers this year: Kinsey Street between Milwaukee and Wells, Lake Street between Pulaski and Damon, Logan Boulevard between Rockwell and Diversey, Milwaukee Avenue between Addison and Irving, Chicago and Division, and Kinsey and Ohio, Independence Boulevard between Douglas and Harrison, Douglas Boulevard between Independence and Sacramento, 119th Street between Ashland and Halsted, and the Major Taylor Trail. Now, I know that I haven't all my colleagues here, and I haven't always seen eye to eye on the bicycle lane issue, but let's open up the conversation for your thoughts.
All right, Ed, you go first, man.
Okay. Well, we actually have there is a small street not too far from me, behind where the grocery stores are, near where like Addison. Sorry, is it Addison Western or Western and Roscoe? The shopping center there.
Yeah.
The street that goes behind those buildings actually has those raised concrete curbs, and they have parking areas to the right on both sides, and it's almost like a 4-lane highway. I don't imagine every street is going to be set up exactly that way, but I know that there aren't that many streets in Chicago that are that wide to even accommodate like one set of curbs that way. So it's going to be interesting to see the actual thing in progress when they try and do this, because I don't know how many.
I'm sorry.
I just don't know how many streets are going to be conducive to putting the raised curbs up like that to make it actually useful for traffic to flow properly. But I think it's overall it's a positive thing. I don't know how much it's going to prevent the accidents like the ones they've recently reported, because you're going to get gig drivers who are delivering parking wherever they can park. You're still going to get those moving trucks and the service trucks that are going to be blocking, whether it's lanes or bike lanes or what have you. They're still going to be doing that stuff. It might be helpful for when ComEd does it to actually have some flagmen out there to help direct traffic when that happens, so that they don't have tragedies like we have seen. But I don't think it's overall a bad thing that they're doing this. I think it's going to be interesting to see how much they actually accomplish by the end of 2023.
Well, I need to add a cash register sound effect to the dashboard here, Ed, because Kathy Powers reports Kappelman worked it out. He's going to ticket cars parked on Leland. So there's definitely going to be some kind of revenue incentive there. Ilhanner shares make room on the sidewalk and paint a line. Now, this is a point that I've made, Ilhanner, on wider sidewalks. For example, here's my counterpoint to what Ed is sharing. You ride on Pulaski, north, southbound, it's like all cemetery land. They've got very, very wide sidewalks. That's a very, very main artery in the city. And nobody's walking those sidewalks. When you've got really wide, empty sidewalks alongside main arteries, that's where bicyclists should be allowed to ride on the sidewalk to avoid all the traffic on those arteries. So what I'm proposing, or what I've proposed, is like, I'm not against working out safety issues, but the fact that they're completely ignoring sidewalks that really aren't that densely traveled or used by pedestrians, they could really make use of that real estate to help solve this problem they don't want to. Because I think it's illegal for bicyclists to use any sidewalks. The ordinances in Chicago prevent that. So why would you prevent empty sidewalks on long arteries, long stretches of road with sidewalks that are untraveled by people? Why would you make that illegal when you can certainly repurpose, or as Ilhanner said, make room on those kind of sidewalks and paint a line? Because you know what? When a bicyclist might unfortunately hit a pedestrian, it's not with the same kind of tragic impact of a car hitting a bicyclist. And that's what bicycling advocates ignore. I like to bicycle, but you know what? I bicycle in the middle of the night when there's no traffic on the street because I don't want to get hit by a car, because I have balance issues. That's my choice. But I don't feel that I have the implied right, or I don't feel entitled to congesting streets all over the city just so I can ride my bicycle anytime, anywhere I want to go, while ignoring stop signs, while ignoring red lights, while deciding to weave in and out of traffic to get where I want to make it dangerous for motorists who are probably already going under the speed limit in heavily congested street areas.
Yeah, I can't count. I can count how many times I've seen a bicyclist, run through the red lights or run through a stop sign. I'm thinking oh my God. There are moments where I'm surprised I haven't seen one of them get hit due to some of these bicyclists making these crazy moves. Now, I'm not saying all bicyclists in Chicago do that, but for the most part, when I'm driving my car, I'm seeing them go right through a red light, right through a stop sign into oncoming or soon-to-be oncoming traffic. And I was like, oh, my God. Seriously, you're making it bad for all of them, but I don't want to see them get hit by a car. I mean, there's plenty of videos on YouTube. If you type it up, cyclists getting hit, you'll find those videos. Those are not pretty to look at.
It's a far more complicated issue than just throwing up barricades and block and issuing tickets. Now, Gene asks in the live chat, they are considering turning the streets in our capital to car-free zones and just have walking, bikes, buses, and electric trains. That's the plan anyway. She goes on to ask, is the busing system good in Chicago? It is really good in Minneapolis. Gene, no, it's not. The buses are late. The streets are congested. The bicycle lanes are adding to the congestion and people not being able to get where they need to with their jobs every day because of, I don't want to say the handful of people, but those that choose to bike and expect the lanes to be put up everywhere, which further congests our traffic systems here.
Yeah, and the bus system used to be a little better than it is now, but the big problem, as usual, is that buses and public transportation are not accessible to everyone in the city like they need to be, and they're not as efficient and they're not as fast. So people are still going to want to have their cars. People are still going to look for alternate ways of getting to work, which is why you see those divvy bikes and those motorized things and everything else that's now on the road. And we have to deal with that. We have to plan for it. And speaking of planning, I think part of the problem with why aren't they thinking about those extra wide sidewalks, Jerry, is that we don't know who is doing the city planning for these projects to expand all the curbs and fix the roads and do all this stuff. Are they thinking about it equitably across the entire city, or are they only focusing on a few areas?
You just answered your own question, Ed. And I wanted to thank Nancy in the chat for agreeing with me because it makes too much sense. It might actually save lives. JR adds, maybe if they created speed limit areas for bicyclists that could be allowed to use sidewalks in certain areas and they get ticketed for speeding on the sidewalk like a vehicle. Yeah, why not hold the bicyclists to a higher standard that everyone else has to and rules that everyone else has to follow? This is my inherent problem with bicyclists, and I don't want to sound like I'm the angry old man against bicyclists. But there seems to be an entitlement with all of their arguments as we see them violating the rules of the road, causing dangerous situations like Kit referenced a moment ago. This is why I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for them. I want to see them safe. I don't want to see accidents happen. But it's this, we're more special than everybody else, and too bad if the streets are congested. We want our bike lanes. We want to be able to do whatever we want without, I don't know, paying any kind of taxes or license plate fees like vehicles do, following the rules of the road, or paying fines that if they break those rules that everyone else has to pay. That's the hypocrisy of it that kind of bugs me.
They don't have to pay for a bike license, like a sticker or anything?
Why don't they? Yeah, if you want your bike lanes, pay for a sticker to help pay for the bike lanes and follow the rules that everybody else using the roads is following, Ed. To Kit's point earlier about watching bicyclists weaving in and out of traffic and basically causing hazardous situations because they have an entitlement mindset, I think.
Well, I'm of two minds about the bicycle stickers, just because the youth of our city, and the people who are just starting out who can't afford cars may be disproportionately penalized for a fee that may or may not be affordable for people.
A $25 sticker ad for bikes. I mean, it can be very nominal. It can be very nominal. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. So fair enough. There are people that can't afford.
I guess maybe the city, in their efforts to transition people to using less fossil fuels and stuff like that, maybe they could subsidize it for a number of years until they start, and doing the fees like they do fees for everything else. In the meantime, what we could do is we could deal with those dirty pedestrians. We need speed cameras for pedestrians. If they're going faster than 20 miles an hour, then we gotta give them some speeding tickets for speed walking, Jerry.
Kathy threw in another $1 super chat, so you know what that means. It means the monkeys at Chicago Corner, we got to dance.
Is that me gold?
What the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
Here, this is what you're looking for, right?
Oh, my eyes, startling, help!
I'm the leprechaun.
Garth, I'm the leprechaun!
Cool it, okay?
I'm the leprechaun!
Stop it, all right?
Don't try and steal me pot of gold!
She's on her nationwide fundraising jag to look for her pot of gold to fund her re-election campaign. All right, let's get into another news story. This is going to be very brief, but I wanted to share it because I'm very, very glad. R. Kelly has been sentenced to 30 years in prison for sex trafficking and racketeering.
That's a
Kelly,
ignition. There you go.
Yeah. Kelly Bauer, Block Club, Chicago. Kelly, Chicago native, faced sexual abuse allegations for years. You destroyed so many people's lives, one woman said. He's gained international fame as an R&B singer, was sentenced Wednesday in a court in New York. It was the culmination of years of girls and young women, many of them black, and their stories repeatedly ignored by officials and journalists reporting he'd sexually abused them. Kelly was convicted in September, and his sentencing hearing was held Wednesday. His victims told the court he'd raped them, held them against their will, and traumatized them. They said they still struggled with their mental health. You destroyed so many people's lives, one woman said during her victim impact statement, according to the New York Times. Now, counterpoint. Ghislaine Maxwell got sentenced to 30 years this week. But isn't it curious? None of the network of people that she and Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women to are going to be held accountable for their crimes, for the lives that they destroyed. Hell, we're not even going to know who they are. And do you want to know why? Because all of those people that were let's imagine that there's, for lack of a better word, a black book. There's a list that the authorities have of all of Jeffrey Epstein's friends that he trafficked and gave those women to, who he undoubtedly has video on from their dalliances at Pedophile Island. Why wouldn't any of these men in Epstein's lists be exposed or be held accountable? Because they're rich people that are far more valuable to our ruling elite to not be exposed because they can be blackmailed. Can you imagine the power you would have as a ruling elite if one of Jeffrey Epstein's clients or associates that he provided women to was the head of a big corporation, and you're in government and you want that corporation, or you want that person, or let me change the example. If it's a politician, okay, let's say a politician was one of Jeffrey Epstein's friends, and you're in the government, and this particular politician might be doing stuff that the opposing party does not want legislation or a bill move forward or something. They've got that blackmail material on that person. This is why none of Jeffrey Epstein's friends who destroyed so many young women's lives with the women that he and Maxwell trafficked to them are ever going to see a day in court. Now, I'm not saying that, it's not good that this asshole is going to be doing 30 years, right? But notice the color of his skin, and he's an entertainer. It's a tale of two laws. Thank you. I'm very glad to see R. Kelly's doing time, but I'm still scratching my head. Well, I don't have to scratch my head because I know why all of Jeffrey Epstein's network of colleagues who used his services are not being exposed and brought to justice.
Bill Clinton, Trump.
Yep, including them.
Yeah, we all know that it's not going to take you long to Google the flight logs to determine who was most likely on those lists, because we know that information is out there.
Of course it is, and it'll never be exposed because those people are far more valuable being blackmailed.
This is such a crock of shit.
Thank you, Al. We agree.
Yep. Al Pacino, Frappuccino, Cappuccino.
Let's see if there's anything new in the. Hey, good question. I'm wondering about that myself. Ghislaine should have gotten 200 years. Chris Hedges read the names of many on the flights. I didn't know that. Well, he read the names of many on the flights, but the question is, who are the ones that were on the lists of those that were? Look, all of the victims that came forward probably shared names of the people that assaulted them. Now, curiously, James Comey's daughter was one of the prosecutors in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and she and her team were responsible for keeping all of that evidence or all of that information suppressed or not disclosable. I wonder if anybody can file a Freedom of Information Act on that.
Well, the judge sealed the list, didn't
Okay,
they?
yeah.
So
On the prosecutor's request, though.
that's a tough one, because if it's sealed by a judge, I think even a FOIA request is not gonna cut it. But I am not a lawyer, ladies and gentlemen, so I do not know.
All right, guys. So as we mentioned, we're all going to be enjoying the Jimmy Dore show next Friday night. However, Luke, who else is going to be in Chicago in August? And I gotta say, is that not the perfect poster? Actually,
I couldn't get my tickets.
I'll tell you why you couldn't get your tickets, Kit. That's what this story is all going to be about. All right, so Joe went on to Twitter.
Wait, before you start, Jerry, why is Michael Keaton on the Joe Rogan poster?
That's not Michael Keaton, that's Joe Rogan.
No,
That's
on the left.
That's Lightfoot. That's Lightfoot, Edward.
Yeah, but why is Michael Keaton on the Joe Rogan poster?
That's not Michael Keaton, that's the gag. It's Beetlejuice. Don't you see? Are you seeing the face
Should I keep doing the gag, or
I'm not getting
your gag, man. Yeah, let's just
please continue the story then.
It's a good thing you're not doing the stand-up show. All right, so Joe went to Twitter the other day, and Kit, thank you for sharing this with me. Chicago tickets go on pre-sale tomorrow, which was yesterday, Thursday, at June 30th at 10 a.m. local time. I set my alarm for 9:50 a.m. yesterday morning, so I was up bright and early. The password to get in the pre-sales was Rogan. All right. So
how much of a password?
Well, basically it allows you, if you know, because the regular sales didn't go on, I think, till 10:30 later. Ed, this was like so if you didn't know Rogan gave out this pre-sale code word, you would have to wait to buy your ticket later. Okay, this was for his fans, right? So I logged on at before 10 a.m. So this was what I saw at 10:05 a.m. I was 23 in the queue, so I'm like, great, I'm in early, right? I'm going to be allowed to purchase my tickets. By the time I was allowed to purchase my tickets, this is what the map of the Chicago theater looks like, okay? At 10:05 a.m., when I was allowed to log in and buy tickets, this entire section was open, right? Can you guys see my arrow? I was trying to get my tickets here, and every time I tried to select those tickets for 2 seats, they'd say that ticket's no longer available, or there's a third seat next to you. We need to book that with a block of 3 seats, right? You have to buy all 3 seats. I just want to buy 2 tickets for me and my companion who I'm bringing with me, right? Ultimately, by 10:05, it worked me up. Even though I was on at 10 a.m., it worked me up into this section. This is where I'm going to be sitting, okay?
Yo, that's some bullshit.
Are you saying, Jerry? That you got screwed by an algorithm?
Well, I'm going to tell you what that algorithm's all about. There's my seats. We're in the nosebleed section. Okay, you see the
Oh no.
Okay, but you know what? I'm not upset because I'm going to see his show. The view from up there, we get to see the theater and stuff. But I assumed after I bought my tickets, I went back in to see what the tickets were available, and this is what I got. You are now number 2,000 in the queue, and this is at 10:13 a.m. I don't think there are 2,000 seats in the theater. Nope. My assumption is they've sold out in that first 20 minutes, right? Nope. I went online today to see if he announced that his show was sold out. Oh, look. You can go over to, where is it here? Great. I forgot to take a screen grab of the website that I saw this at. But all of these seats are available at another ticket selling service today. All of those
so they
seats
got
that I was trying to
scooped
get.
up by the ticket resellers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Scooped up within the first 15 minutes. And you know what? Tickets in this section that were originally, I think, $85 are now going for like $165.
Fuck that.
Now, what is interesting about this whole? Now, I don't go to concerts a lot, guys. So, okay, I'll tell you which service it was. I've actually got the link here now. I can put it up. All those seats that are now available are through StubHub.
Son of a.
Now, what surprised me about this was that it was my assumption that ticket scalping is illegal in Chicago, and it is. Somehow, though, StubHub was able to get all those seats in the first 15 minutes. Let me go back to the graphic.
Jerry, can you clip this part of
They got all those tickets. Oh yeah, I'll clip it. So here's the article that I want. So assuming that the show was sold out, and then seeing on StubHub that all these seats are available, I decided to investigate the whole question of ticket scalping. Now, from my law questions, is scalping tickets illegal? In the U.S., scalping is the practice of buying and reselling event tickets by private citizens rather than by the sponsoring venue or organization, usually at a much higher price than their face value. Laws about ticket scalping vary by state, and there is no federal law that prohibits the practice. Approximately 16 of the 50 states have a law that makes scalping illegal. 7 states, Alabama, Georgia, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, require a special license to resell tickets. I guess at this rate that StubHub is now charging for all those seats that they grabbed up in the first 15 minutes using Joe Rogan's
I wanted to see the show.
Special code for fans. Well, Kit, you can see the show if you want to pay $100 for the ticket now.
No, you can still get tickets for the 10 p.m. Saturday, August 6th show through Ticketmaster while they last.
Well, wait, Joe Rogan's got a second show?
Yeah, he's got 2 shows on the first show. One's at 7, one's at 10, and then he added another show.
Okay, well, that other show was not included when he made this announcement.
Well, that would have been nice to know, but fuck it.
Well, anyway, I just found it really interesting getting up early. And again, I don't go to concerts enough to know about this whole culture of seats disappearing in the way that they did, but I figured I'll be up at 9:50, logged in at 10 o'clock. I had his special code to log in and get my tickets, and instantly seeing all the tickets that I was trying to get on, where is it really quickly? Here we go again. This was at 10:08 a.m. No, I logged on at 10:05. I was trying to find stuff here, and by 10:08, it had pushed me back here because all those other seats had been bought up by StubHub, and so that they can charge more pricing for it.
Well, also realize that StubHub is a reseller, like an individual reseller hub, so people can purchase them and list them on StubHub immediately. So it could it might not be
all those blocks of seats disappearing that fast at 10:05.
It's possible it was a coordinated effort by some of the scalper operations in the city, but also you have individual ticket holders who decide that, well, I'm not making any money any other way. Maybe I can buy some Rogan tickets and resell them and double my money that way. Some people do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many are doing it now.
I think a lot are still doing it because I was shocked at seeing how quickly it sold, and assuming it sold out to then find everything over on StubHub. So yeah, you're right. There were probably a lot of people that decided to take advantage of that to make more money off of putting them up on StubHub.
But still, and you could probably wait until a couple nights before the show and see if they're not selling. If those seats are still on StubHub, they may lower the prices if they're trying to get rid of them and they're not able to sell them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, it was an unfortunate development. I'm glad I got my seats, and I don't think that the view is that bad. I don't necessarily know that there are any bad seats in the Chicago theater. It's just I'd hoped that we could have gotten closer on the main floor.
So you've got seats for Friday the 5th?
Yeah, Friday the 5th, the first. I guess it's his first show. I didn't know he had it.
The 7 p.m. show.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting some other screens set up here, so stand by. Yeah, that's where I'm going to be, up there. So, speaking of tickets that will probably be quickly scalped or resold, here we go. Look who else is coming to Chicago. And I thought that this might, of course, it's not going to come up because it's a Chicago Tribune story. Give me a second to pull this up through the PH archive. So, Kit, yeah, I guess he's got some more shows coming in, but you'll have to pay a little bit more for the ticket pricing.
Well, that's something to think about, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because I tried, to get some tickets and no dice. Like they said, the website crashed. I tried on my laptop. I tried on my cell phone. Tried everything. Nope.
Why is this story not... Ed, do you have this story queued up? I'm having a problem with Archive PH. It's a Chicago Tribune story. It's about our patron saints of Chicago Corner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me get that for you.
Okay.
Our official patron saints.
Yes.
There we go.
Stand by.
Stand by, everybody. We will, in fact,
here we go.
We've got the perfect. Oh, there we go. And I was about to push the standby. So yeah, I thought that this was kind of cool. Make sure that you get online fast so that those tickets don't go immediately to the scalpers. But I think it's kind of cool, although it's not John Belushi. Interesting to see that Aykroyd is, I guess, bringing the band back together. Dan Aykroyd and James Belushi will headline with the Blues Brothers Band at, of all places, the old Joliet prison, which is, I think, the coolest part of that story. Of course, I can't bring the article up here, but if you can scroll through it really quick, I can read it off screen. Fans of the 1980 movie The Blues Brothers, it doesn't get any more authentic than this. An inaugural Blues Brothers convention will be held at the old Joliet prison in August, headlined by a 90-minute live-in-concert performance with Dan Aykroyd and James Belushi reprising their iconic roles from the movie. Tickets, $60 and up, which will probably go to $200 afterwards on StubHub, are on sale. Oh, geez, I didn't realize they went on sale already. Kit, we should see if we can. That would be something cool for us to cover for Chicago Quarter, but I don't know if they'll let cameras in.
Let's see if we can try and go there.
Yeah, top tier Crystal Head vodka tickets. There we go. Damn. Crystal Head Platinum VIP tickets are $5,000 a shot, include a meet and greet with Aykroyd and Belushi. He's really pimping that Crystal Head vodka, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Ticket holders can expect all the sights and sounds you've loved about the movie, said Greg Peerbolt, the CEO of the nonprofit Joliet Area's Historical Museum, in announcing the weekend of events on social media. Also announced for Blues Brothers Con, Chicago bluesman Toronzo Cannon and Curtis Salgado, from whom the film's character Curtis is named. A Saturday gospel music service led by Joliet area faith-based civic leaders, followed by Chicago blues veterans Mondo Cortez and the Chicago Blues Angels, and Lil Ed and the Blues Imperials, a Bluesmobile, and Bob's Country Bunker on the food front. Dry white bread and orange whips, along with the more usual fest concessions, which
fried chicken. Come on!
I was about to say, I'm hoping they're going to include the fried chicken and Cokes.
And we need the wicked pepper steak from the Joliet Slammer.
That's right. So yeah, just wanted to announce that and share that. I thought it was a great story. Yeah. So get ready. The band's getting back together. All right. So this is a follow-up story I wanted to share. I believe I reported on this on a previous show regarding the postal services, not just in my neighborhood, but all over the city of Chicago. However, I am going to point out the post offices near me, Northtown Station, and now Edgebrook, Lincolnwood, of which I'm going to start this story by sharing this video from, I believe it's WGN News. So let me start the video, and then I'll get into what I'm updating.
You might want to avoid.
And WGN's Megan Dwyer joins us live from Lincolnwood with that story. Megan?
Ray and Micah, we are live tonight outside the Lincolnwood Post Office Annex near Arthur and Lincoln. And it is this post office box here that this mailbox that people say don't trust. They are sending holiday cards here and some checks. They're getting their mail stolen, and sometimes they're getting their bank accounts wiped out.
And it's this mailbox.
They sent their son, a graduate student at Georgetown, a $10,000 check to help with tuition.
Even if I would have sent him, we would have sent him a $100 check. Somebody changes the amounts anyway.
It never made it to D.C.
He said, "You got the check, right?" Because he knew that it had been cashed. And he said, "No, I didn't get it." And that's when we looked and saw that the payee was changed to a person that we didn't know, and someone's address was on there, a Southside Chicago address.
The Lincolnwood Police Department says there have now been 37 stolen checks from this post office this year at 3500 North Lincoln, the majority reported in just the last month.
Now,
okay,
this video was from the end of 2021. This is not the first time checks have been stolen from that mailbox nor reported on. There was another news report that shared checks were being stolen from this mailbox in 2020, this previous year. You're going to tell me in a year's time, this fucking post office where you see the door there, the entry is like right in front of that mailbox, Lincolnwood Police, the postal inspectors can't put a fucking security camera up there on that door to see who's been going into that mailbox for a year? Of course not, because it's an inside job. There are people in the postal, if this has gone on for over a year now, and the reason I'm bringing up this article, Ed, I mistakenly didn't, until I researched this post office, I put 2 checks in the mail at that mailbox in May, okay? And they didn't get to their destination. One of the checks was a net 30 check to one of my manufacturers. They didn't get there. And I'm thinking, one check I can understand not getting to its destination. 2, and I went online to look at the Edgebrook Lincolnwood station and found this story, further researched it to find out that checks had been stolen from this mailbox a year prior. Now, I wrote my representative, Jan Schakowsky, and I wrote the postmaster here in Chicago, and it's not the first time I've written them. The first time for this station. I've written them before about Northtown Station, which is my postal station, frequently misreporting delivery tracking to meet their metrics, saying that they've delivered stuff that they don't deliver, and then it comes by 2 or 3 days later when it's supposed to be priority mail. I know these are little things, guys, but when you've got an entire postal system misreporting the delivery tracking of mail, not paying any attention to who's going into this mailbox at Edgebrook Lincolnwood Station, stealing checks that they then falsify to rip people off when it's clearly... It's so easy to put a security camera there. When I wrote Jan Schakowsky here in Chicago about this particular, I'm like, why is it? I just discovered that this has been going on for a year. Had I known, I wouldn't have put my checks in that mailbox. But Jan Schakowsky wrote me back. Thank you for taking the time to get in touch and share your views with us, my views. Because I wrote, I dropped 2 stamped check billments into the mailbox at Edgebrook Lincolnwood Post Office, didn't get to where they were supposed to go. This has been a problem for over a year, is what I was bringing to her attention. So thank you for taking the time to get in touch and share your views with me. Your email did not appear to have a mailing address attached, and your email address did not match to an existing constituent record. Please respond to this message with your mailing address. Due to the large volume of email my office receives, I will only be able to respond to residents of Illinois' 9th Congressional District. I wrote her back. I shared my other emails are this email, my Gmail address, here is my address, and I have corresponded with your representative, Leslie Combs, about these ongoing problems at the postal station in West Rogers Park in the past, and now you can add questions about why Edgebrook Lincolnwood hasn't solved its stolen check problem for 2 years. Didn't get a response from Representative Schakowsky. And then I got an email today, since I resent this, I wrote her back. So it appears postal customers aren't supposed to expect more from USPS services. When we don't get responses to ongoing USPS problems, we are vigilant about reporting in the same postal stations for the past 3 years, as highlighted below. What's being done about the inept management at Northtown Station? What's being done to prevent more checks from being stolen from the mailbox at Edgebrook Lincolnwood? Has anyone had the brains to put a security camera on it to figure out who keeps stealing mail with checks from that box? And I further said, you know what? I'm a media pundit on YouTube. I'm happy to talk about the negligence and lack of response USPS fixing things on my next live stream, which is now. Now, I got a response from Eddie Morgan, who's the new postal inspector in Chicago. He used to be in Kansas City. So the response I got from him today: hello, I'm out of the office and will not have phone or email access. Please contact the Kansas City Postmaster at 816-374-9144 for all Kansas City postal issues. They haven't even given him a Chicago Postal Service email address. Now that he's serving as the postmaster of the city of Chicago. Let me continue with this video.
I made a report to the Lincolnwood Police. They said there's been other cases. I had to call the U.S. Postal Service.
Good luck.
Spend hours at the bank.
Police say the general mail isn't being taken, just checks, and they are working with the U.S. Postal Inspector to figure out who's doing it.
I'm sure it was an employee.
Police say whoever it is changes the name on the check and then fraudulently cashes it in a different jurisdiction.
I just wouldn't trust the mail service at all right now.
Shapiro, a former prosecutor turned defense attorney, says she appreciates that investigations take time, but she wants to warn people not to mail checks at all, and not just from the Lincolnwood Post Office, but from anywhere.
I mean, they should be 100% accountable. I mean, it's getting bad when you can't even mail a check.
So this whole thing happened back on November 22nd. That's when they mailed the check. It got
2021.
cashed the very next day on the 23rd, and they're still waiting here almost a month later to get their $10,000 back. Police tell me the first thing you need to do if you are...
The police are useless because checks have been stolen since this box for over a year. Now we're into the second. We're now in 2022. So yes, I am going to subclip this particular segment, put it on YouTube, send it to Representative Schakowsky, send it to the postmaster here in Chicago, see if I can send it to the, I don't know that the Postal Service Federal is going to pay any attention to this, but our postal system is broken down. I used to always be supportive of the postal system, the union workers in the postal system, because I believe in unions and I believe in the postal system. I ship everything now for my business guys, UPS. And anytime I order anything from anybody online, I beg them to use UPS because USPS cannot be trusted anymore. You've got, who's the guy that Trump put in charge? Tom, what's his name? Tom DeJoy, who's completely been stripping down the Postal Service to try to privatize it for his cronies from the private delivery businesses that he associates with. I guess what bugs me the most about this and why I wanted to update it was that I'm not the only person who probably contacts my representative. I'm not the only person who sends emails to the postmaster. You can go to Yelp to look at the pages and pages of negative reviews regarding the inept management at Northtown Station. Not only inside their lobby, but as far as their misreporting deliveries to make it look like they've delivered stuff that they then sit on for days. There are weeks we don't get mail delivered here in my building for a week, and this is the brush off you get.
Yeah, Jerry, it's Louis DeJoy. He was appointed in May of 2020, but yes, he's been a nightmare for the United States Postal Service, and the dude should be in prison for some of the stuff that he's done to hamper and slowly dismantle the U.S. Postal Service. But people need to be aware that he didn't start this. This has been an ongoing process for decades from both sides of the aisle, who have been slowly trying to dismantle the United States Postal Service so they can privatize mail delivery. They are doing it because, like Jerry said, he's using UPS now. He doesn't trust the post office. That in its essence, in my mind, it's treason.
It's tragic that
the U.S. Postal Service was established.
Yep.
It's supposed to exist and not be corrupted by jerk weasels, as I put it. You should not have to be worrying about whether your check that you send somebody is going to get stolen out of a mailbox, washed, and cashed by somebody else.
Yeah, that's not how it should be.
I want to share something. Constitutional Conservative shares in the chat. It's yet another example of a failed government-run and operated service department. Yeah, it is. Go to UPS or FedEx and trust a private sector service. Well, Constitutional Conservative, who I've had these discussions with in the past, I've had to, but let's keep in mind, it's because of the same postmaster that Trump assigned, period. And let me tell you something else about this Louis DeJoy. The Postal Service was given a mandate to establish an electric-powered fleet. Do you follow this, Ed? You might know where I'm going with this. Last year, they were tasked with finding a company that was going to provide them with electric vehicles going forward to make the Postal Service greener and the vehicles to last longer. There was a company called Workhorse that was at the forefront of electric delivery vehicles as well as electric postal delivery vehicles. They supply vehicles for UPS, electric vehicles. Everybody assumed Workhorse was going to get this contract because they met all of the requirements. It was a big growth stock. It was a big startup stock a lot of people believed in because Workhorse had what it took to meet all of the specifics of Biden's mandates regarding electric vehicles. So lo and behold, when the postal contract was announced, it was to a defense contractor in Wisconsin that doesn't manufacture electric vehicles. Most of their fleet is combustion vehicles that can be retooled into electric vehicles that will spend more money and take longer. And lo and behold, the day before that contract the U.S. Postal Service finally announced was given out, somebody invested a lot of stock in that Wisconsin company and made out like a fucking bandit when DeJoy decided to go against the mandate that was put forth by Biden's administration as far as going greener and giving that contract to a manufacturer that could supply more electric vehicles and grow the fleet to be longer lasting. That Constitutional Conservative is the corruption of the postmaster that was assigned by Trump. So while I agree with Mr. Constitutional Conservative about the fact it's a failed government-run and operated service department, never forget it was under the corrupt leadership of Louis DeJoy, who was appointed by Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's very often you will get criticism from conservatives and people who want quote unquote small government who and often it's politicians who want quote unquote small government who say, oh, well, government doesn't work. And then they get elected and prove it because they don't want it to work. So they do everything possible to not help it to work. So if you get people into office who don't care about making government work for you or anyone, then that's what you're getting in return. That's why it's a problem. The problem isn't that it's funded by government. The problem is that it's being hampered by people who get into government so that they can sabotage it.
Gene speaks to your point absolutely, Ed. You're right, and Gene is right. The guy in charge, DeJoy, wants to destroy the Federal Postal Service. They can make money if they destroy it. Corporate fuckers, absolutely. This type of job can be a more profitable business than a regular job. Now, JR, yes, we do. We have a postal inspector general and inspection service that should investigate. Now, I'm not sure if you're talking about the insider information that went out before the postal contract was announced with the electric vehicle company regarding the electric vehicle company, or the initial story about the mailbox that's getting robbed all the time for over a year with the check washing. But yeah, on both points. Why aren't they? I don't know. Go figure.
Or if they are, why haven't they caught them yet?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they had information that somebody cashed that check. They could have tracked down that person who cashed the check and worked their way back to find out where that check came from and who, so that they could find out who was raiding those mailboxes. And yeah, it sounds like it would be an inside job, Jerry. Like you
well,
said.
JR, clarifies, yeah, Postal OIG investigates postal workers and inspectors. Okay, so for over coming up on almost 2 years now, that particular mailbox reported on in the story still has checks stolen from it. It's been reported to the postal investigators and inspectors, and checks are still being stolen. I sent an update to the Representative Schakowsky, couldn't be the first one, right? The postmaster here and the postmaster preceding him. It's not a new story. So why aren't they investigating? Don't know. Yes, Biden does have the same postmaster in place because unfortunately Biden can't change the postmaster, constitutional conservative. There's a board of governors at the Postal Service. Now, Biden could switch out that board. I don't know why he hasn't, since ultimately they're the ones responsible for replacing the postal inspector. I
believe, Jerry, he did recently just appoint like 2 or 3 people to that board. So they actually have a majority where they could vote DeJoy out, but something tells me there's probably more corruption in that board than anyone cares to go into. And as we know, Melty Joe will say he wants to do something, but then will he? We don't know. He says a lot of things.
Yeah. Joe won't do shit.
Now, Kathy Powers shares, can we send a prank check? You know, Kathy, I was wondering, given the fact that they haven't put any kind of security cam out there to find out who's breaking into that post box, that mailbox at Edgebrick Lincolnwood, what if I went over there and decided to take a hammer to that mailbox? I wonder if I bet you I'd get caught. I bet you that they are watching that mailbox, and if I decided I wanted to vandalize that mailbox, I bet I'd get caught. I just don't want to take the risk of like going to jail to prove, wait, you've got cameras out to catch me vandalizing the mailbox, but you haven't had cameras out for the past 2 years to figure out who's pilfering the box, stealing and washing checks.
Oh, or Jerry, you ever seen those videos where the guy like leaves packages out on his doorstep and stuff so that people steal them, and they got little booby traps and confetti and all kinds of cameras and stuff in them?
Yeah.
Be cool to do something like that.
It would. How about this? Put a firecracker in the box.
No. That would be destruction of property. We don't want to do that.
Constitutional.
Something like, put something like on the check that actually like some kind of reappearing ink or something that when anybody who touches that thing, like they got like purple stuff all over their hands or something,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That they use for bank robbers. So constitutional conservative, USPS is sucked way before Trump, Mr. Vasilatos. Stop. Something tells me constitutional conservative is a big Trump supporter.
You stupid, ignorant son of a bitch, dumb bastard! Jesus Christ, I've met some dumb bastards in my time, but you outdo them all. Get over there!
But he's not entirely wrong. I mean, that's what I've been saying, is that for decades, and this constitutional conservative.
It's gotten worse. It's gotten far worse. I don't recall this many problems with the Postal Service, though, Ed. Right in our faces, you go to the Northtown Station branch, and so here's my experience from the Northtown Station branch. I will routinely buy my postage at home, label my packages. I would take it to the post office, and I'd bring it to the counter, say, can you scan it, give me a receipt. The clerk at the counter would not give me a receipt because of COVID. I'm like, but you're selling postage to people coming up to the counter and giving them receipts and actually handling their packages that they bring from home. Why aren't you willing to scan it and give me a receipt? I'll tell you why. Because they would tell me to go put my package on the counter over there where all the packages would pile up. They wouldn't scan those packages the day that you leave the package on the counter. They get to those packages when they wanted to get to them. That's why they don't want to give you a receipt, so they can control the metrics inside because they couldn't keep up with the workload. That's what it was all about. And I complained to Schakowsky about that. And I complained to the postmaster about that. COVID was no reason not to give people who had pre-labeled packages a receipt at the counter. But they would allow it to happen. Even when you complain and you contacted the manager at the station and she would give you the same bullshit excuse. That's inept management on the local level that they continue to allow. That's not the only thing. Go to Yelp, look at the complaints at your postal service. When you see that many complaints, And the postmaster in Chicago knows that there are these problems at these different branches, and they don't either get rid of the manager or get that manager into line to make business easier for the customers who they're supposed to serve. You realize it's a corrupt system, and they just don't give a shit. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, and the sad fact is, like, again, this could be stopped, but there's no one who wants to take the initiative to really call out the fact that people are losing money. And I have to wonder how many of those people at the post office have partook into this illegal activity.
I'm going to tell you, Kit, what this cost. Those 2 checks that I mailed, it cost me $70, and I'll tell you why. Because I had to stop payment on both checks. If they end, I didn't expect them to get to where they were supposed to go, but they were mailed in May, didn't get to where they were going to go by June. One was a net 30. I had to overnight a check to my manufacturer, which costed me $30. Then I had to spend another, I think it was $30 in stop payment fees on the 2 checks that never got anywhere. Because what if those checks got to my vendors and they didn't remember, oh, he already paid this, and put those checks through again, causing an overdraft. So this bullshit on 2 checks that were either stolen, and they had to be stolen because it's like there were checks in them. How do 2 checks not get to where they're supposed to go? 2 payment checks. That's what led me on this whole rabbit hole of like figuring out what's going on over there. So yeah, it costed me money, and I told that to Shikowski. I'm like, this cost $60 or $70 to stop payment on the checks and have to overnight a new check to one of my vendors that needed to be net 30 to keep me, current and in good shape. Crickets from the postmaster, from Shikowski, from everybody. So yeah, it costs people money, far less than the woman in this report who sent the check to her child in college. But still, nobody should have to go through this bullshit.
Agreed.
All right. So last story of the night. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And just the last thing is just it. Sorry. The post office used to be super reliable, but like I said, it had been over the decades been systematically been hampered, and they were trying to give it problems like that 75-year pre-funding for retirement account pensions and stuff like that. And then DeJoy got in there, and since everybody was on lockdown and paying attention, and everybody's dealing with having to do things through the post office, we definitely noticed things like dismantling of sorting machines. Yeah. And of course, and obviously,
especially during the election season, is when that's why Trump
staffing shortages and
yeah. Around the election, that's what DeJoy was put in to make sure to interfere with, which is kind of funny because when you had Trump telling everybody don't vote by mail, and they didn't, and DeJoy was basically usurping the vote by mail thing. That's probably why Trump lost votes in the end, because so many more older people and seniors that were used to mailing in their ballots that would, unfortunately vote blue no matter who, sent their ballots in for Biden.
Yeah, and normally in a sane world where you could trust the post office, you would consider that a normal chain of custody. And then it wouldn't be broken by sending it through the U.S. mail. But of course, now that we have situations like someone going and opening up a post office box and washing checks and cashing them out and doing whatever they want with your mail, then yeah, that can definitely create some question marks in chain of custody, which sucks because vote by mail should be a reliable way to vote.
My last thoughts on the appointment of Louis DeJoy to be the postmaster by Trump.
He said, right. Blowjob, sir.
He said, blowjob, sir. Going to our last story. Hey, everybody. We hope it's a bloodless weekend. And celebrating the 4th of July, even though the 4th of July is all about, a bloody revolution that changed things in this country, which is why I'm wondering when peaceful protest is ignored, is violent revolution inevitable, as John F. Kennedy said, because we're kind of going on a theme here. Anyway, though, I want everybody out there watching to celebrate peacefully. be careful. And in that spirit, I want to share from Block Club Chicago, report an update on the fireworks shows, parades, and parties, your guide to celebrating the 4th of July in Chicago. This is reported by Kaylee Padar. Hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Downtown in the Loop, there will be Navy Pier fireworks, 9:30 p.m. Saturday. Where? Near 600 East Grand Avenue, or as we normally see every year, people will be parking on Lakeshore Drive to watch as the fireworks go on over the lake. There will be a Grant Park Music Festival, Independence Day Salute, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, preceding the Navy Pier fireworks at the J. Pritzker Pavilion. Mystic Blue Odyssey and Spirit of Chicago 4th of July cruises. Times will vary on Saturday from Navy Pier. Chicago Peer Pressure Pre-July 4th Yacht Party. This is happening at 11:15 p.m. Saturday at Navy Pier. Signature Fireworks Dinner Cruise. Board 7 p.m. Sunday at Cityfront Plaza. We've got a link to all the festivities down here in the show description. I will quickly scroll through that, but if you want to find places over the weekend to celebrate a safe 4th of July, there's also information what's happening in Hyde Park. 4th on 53rd Parade and Picnic on Monday. Irving Park's got their annual Independence Day celebration on Monday. Sauganash, a lot of good stuff happening. And of course, unofficial fireworks displays will probably be happening in your back alley. But the official unofficial ones that are listed here on Block Club Chicago are in Horner Park, Humboldt Park, Legion Park, Rogers Park, Sheridan Park, and Wells Park. Again, you can find all that great information on the fireworks across the city down in our show description. Guys, doing anything fun for the
we should, Jerry, we should also remind people that in Illinois, the use and ownership and purchase of commercial fireworks, not legal. Not really. Just saying.
This is such a crock of shit.
Hang on to your fingers, people.
So I think Daniel invited us over on Monday. I think he's doing a little barbecue.
Yeah, he is.
Cool. I'm going to try to make it out for that. Anything else scheduled with you guys this weekend?
No, pretty much I'm about to just call it an evening. So everyone take good care of yourselves. That's what I like to say.
All right. One last note, constitutional conservative. Oh, God, help me. Kathy Powers, I'm a cashless and always prefer paper money. Sadly, both electronic and paper currency are worthless because of all the debt. Constitutional conservative, I've got a parting message for you.
Hey, weatherman!
All right, guys.
That's not how federal spending works.
Thank you. We should have a debate with him sometime on that. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me tonight. I want to wish everybody in the live chat, please remember this 4th of July weekend. Please be safe out there. Be safe. Stay vigilant. Watch out for each other. I will be back not next. Well, you can see me next Tuesday on the Hardlands Media Show with Kit. No. Actually, correction. I will be hosting, since Kit's going to be on vacation next Tuesday, I will be hosting the Hardlands Media Tuesday show at 4 o'clock with my friend Art Medina, who will be joining me for that broadcast. Kira will be doing the Chicago Corner on Tuesday, and next Friday night, we will have the special CAN TV interview that Kit conducted with local mayoral candidate Jamal Green. It's going to be a great interview, so I hope you can all tune in next Friday night for that. So, again, I will see you guys next week, Tuesday, at Hardlands Media. And remember, if it's happening in the streets, you will hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Peace out, everybody. Stay safe, and I will see you all soon.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.